members at the house, and of course, all that's missing is you here at the Grissom house on Grissom here in Mitchell. Come on by, even though we've got some clouds. We're having fun out here.
It was getting in pretty bad shape until some of them took over and refurbished it.
It was restored in about 2000 and had been open intermittently through that process until about 2013 when we took over and began having it open every Saturday from May to October.
The house was originally built in the early 1800s, but this addition was in the early 1900s. The Grissoms moved here in 1927. They lived here until they passed. So it's really just a Grissom home.
It just feels like I'm coming home. I spent all my, well, I was born here, so this was my early days. I was the youngest of the 4 children. Gus was the oldest, and then my sister Wilma and my brother Norman.
I think we've just enjoyed being here today and enjoyed having everyone here who's come through. We've had people from Europe and people from all over the United States, and the interest is still present in the space program. I think it's awesome. I have wonderful memories of my childhood and how important Gus was to our community.
It got to be pretty exciting when all at once somebody that close to you is always on TV and you see him everywhere, and you just weren't quite used to that.
I think it's important for children in this specific area here to be proud of their hometown hero, but for any child that comes through here, whether they're from Mitchell or whether they're from California, to know if you set your heart to do something, you can do it, because really all odds were against him if you think about it.
When he was in the Air Force, he had wanted to go to the academy, and he had to have the approval, I think, of a congressman or something that never came to get in the academy. That didn't stop him. I know when he got out of the Air Force and went to Purdue, that they wrote the principal, and he was saying, well, I don't think he's good college material. And so many people, the first strike would have been, you know, well, I quit, I can't do this or that. It didn't faze him. He just had tenacity like a bulldog, and he held on to his dream and accomplished it.
I mean, his dad worked for the railroad. They weren't overly rich. They probably had a little bit more than the average person during the Depression years, but you know, they were not overly rich. You go out to Spring Mill, look at his report card, you can see he wasn't the greatest student in the world. But if you set yourself to a goal, you can accomplish it, and that's exactly what he did. He had an idea of what he wanted to do, and despite the odds, he was able to accomplish that.
Virgil represents to me what a small town boy can accomplish from very meager means, meager start off, and just out of sheer determination and education, what we can become in the United States. And I'd love to keep his memory alive here in Mitchell, Indiana, because he was very important to us, even as children, when he would fly over in his jet and break the sound barrier to say hello to his parents. I remember that, shaking all the cupboards in our home here in Mitchell, Indiana.
He buzzed Mitchell several times before he became an astronaut, much to the chagrin of some of our neighbors.
He and the mayor had an agreement that he could buzz the town once when he was coming through the area. And he'd usually come in over Lehigh smokestacks out there, would buzz down Main Street, and then go just across Highway 37, and then he'd pull up, because that's where Betty's parents lived. And so when he pulled up, he was going right up over their house. So everybody knew Gus was in the area.
It's Gus's parents' room. They believe it was part of the original house, which is just this side of the house because of the more elaborate woodwork. It has original items that include his father's civil defense helmet, his high school graduation program, and the cedar chest that has just recently been returned to the house that his mother was given when they got married. It's exciting to me that it's here, it has been preserved, And that just doesn't happen with a lot of things anymore. One of the most interesting things is that a lot of people who come in here know way more about it than I do because they've studied Grissom and they've studied astronauts.
I'm absolutely loving every minute of it, and kind of puts more of a personal connection to it as opposed to always the technical side, the engineering and hardware. This is kind of like, brings it home. I hope it does inspire many future generations to follow suit, and that pretty much anything is possible if you do have your roots grounded and you pursue your dreams.
As I was growing up, Gus was just getting into the Gemini program, and so being Hoosiers, my folks made sure I was aware of Gus and the things he was doing. And it was a great inspiration. It inspired me to go to Purdue, get my own degree in aerospace engineering, astronautical engineering, and went on to work in the space program for 24 years, working on 17 space shuttle missions. I'm glad to see they've preserved the Grissom home that they have. I think it's wonderful that it's being maintained. So hopefully this will be maintained for perpetuity. Mitchell's a lovely little town. I enjoy strolling the streets here, meeting the locals, hearing their stories, hearing about the town, because honestly, outside of Mitchell, you don't hear much about it. So it's wonderful to meet the folk. They're all very friendly, very accepting, very eager to get to know you. So it's always a great time when we come here.
I love Mitchell, Indiana. It's great. I would move here actually. It is great. It is. It's a great little town. Everybody's been hospitable. Very nice. This is her retirement.
Oh, this is
wish.
This was this is kind of my bucket list. I've just retired, and I've always respected Gus Grissom and just what he did for the space program, and just everything about space. We came all the way from Houston. We live close to NASA down there, and flew up to Indianapolis and drove down here to Mitchell, specifically to come to Gus's home. We drove into Mitchell and we drove around, went over to the memorial. It's there where his elementary school, the site there. And then we just drove by the house and looked here, and then I drove out to Spring Mill Park for just a few minutes. I think it's so important to teach people about these wonderful heroes and their legacy and what all they've done, and I just hope that we continue it in the future.
Yeah, keep those stories alive. And they need to come. They need to come here.
Yeah, they need to come here.
I think it's important for us here in Mitchell to remember what Gus did for the community, and if I can come in once in a while and help and pass that along, that's what I wanted to do.
He was a national hero, and we do like to keep his memory alive, and if having his boyhood home helps do that, then we'd like for people to come and see what's here.